Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 196. Economics, U.S. China trade wars in full effect. Please click the like button as you come in, share the video if possible. There's a document in the description beneath the video. If you use that to follow along. Also, as an FYI, we are not certified financial planners. If you want a certified financial planner, make sure you go to cfp.net and look up one in your area. So we do not give out financial advice on this channel. Everything we say is our own opinion and not actual advice. So with that being said, we're going to get started with the hangout. Raining woman, how are you doing? Good evening. Happy Friday. Let me share my screen. All right, so first on the docket is from the Foundation for Economic Education. Shipping containers make surprisingly nice homes. Hipness aside, container housing is a potential source of housing for lower income households. At Bacon's Rebellion, Jim Bacon describes one form of affordable housing using empty shipping containers. I'll just read this first paragraph. Sheila Guntz estimates that there are 33 million cargo containers around the world, half of which are empty. Many of the empties languish in the United States because China ships $400 billion more in trade goods to the U.S. every year than the U.S. ships back. After making multiple transoceanic trips, used containers stack up in port cities like Norwalk by the thousands, or Norfolk by the thousands. And therein lies a business opportunity. The shipping lines can recycle them as scrap metal or sell them to someone like Sheila, an interior designer living in the Richmond area, who dreams about refashioning them into inexpensive dwellings. The idea of converting shipping containers into housing is hardly new. You just don't see much of it in Virginia, other than six-container shrimp shack restaurant under construction in Chesterfield County, where container dwellings comprise a hip new housing type that is increasingly popular among millennials around the world and is inspiring architects to do marvelous creative things with big steel boxes. Housing could also be made substantially cheaper by reducing the minimum lot size mandated by the government, or by permitting more homes to be built on a single lot. But zoning restrictions prevent this in America's most expensive regions, driving up the housing costs. Zoning restrictions also make housing more expensive in much of the world. Government restrictions on the density and height of housing have contributed to the housing prices rising an average 24% in the world's 32 largest cities over just the last 5 years. That's 24% in real terms after adjusting for inflation. Cutting back on zoning restrictions is an idea backed by economists and housing policy experts across the political spectrum. Housing costs could also be reduced by thousands of dollars by simplifying building codes and by making them uniform across states. Right now, building codes often vary from county to county in complicated and unnecessary ways. That makes housing construction less competitive and less able to take advantage of economies of scale. Deregulation. Loosening zoning and simplifying building codes would increase the supply of housing and make housing more affordable. But with rare exceptions, government officials aren't doing that. Instead, they are doing things that will make it even harder for many people to find a place to live. For example, Oregon recently imposed statewide rent control that will discourage new housing construction and make things worse for future renters in the long run. Economists say rent controls are destructive. In a 1990 poll, 93% of them agreed that rent control reduces the quantity and quality of housing available. Even left-leaning economists think rent control is stupid. For example, in 1972, the Swedish economist Assar Lindbeck warned, in many cases, rent control appears to be the most efficient technique presently known to destroy a city, except for bombing. So, New York is very big on rent control, and you can see the results of that. Peace to everyone in the chat. One of the things about shipping containers is that a shipping container goes for $1,000, so you can actually get the base foundation of your quote unquote dwelling for $1,000 down. That being said, it would cost you anywhere between $8,000 to $10,000 from IKEA and Home Depot, or depending on where you shop, to actually get this thing off the ground from a fit to furnish furnishment estimate. You still have to pay somebody to move it. So maybe moving it might cost you $500 at best to move it from the shipping dock or the loading dock to your place of destination. And depending on how complex the environment is where you're trying to move it to, that's going to cost you a little bit more money too, because you may need a crane to lift it and actually drop it on the foundation. With that being said, you can make out with a shipping container home for about less than 20 grand. I think black people should be looking into this big time, because most shipping containers, for the most part, are 20 feet. When you really extend it out, you're talking about up to 53 feet for a shipping container. Um, that's not bad in terms of space, but I think that's about 500 and I want to say 520 square feet, if I remember correctly. So you can have a condo inside of a box for less than 35 grand. You really can't beat that from a housing standpoint, because if you had to go to New York and pay 520, I mean, pay for 520 square feet in a condo in New York, I can tell you right now, you're paying $500,000 easy. So this is definitely something I'm looking into. I'm actually working on, the blueprints right now. Um, Jay Charles and myself have talked extensively about this for about 6 months. He's vested into this as well. So the Black Brain Trust is on board with these sort of concepts, but myself personally, I'm definitely going to be doing something like this in Africa as a living situation. So Dollar Will and Lionel, what's going on, brothers? Can anybody hear me? Okay, I guess these guys can't hear me, or I can't hear them. If anybody in the chat can hear me, push one. Okay, so Jay Charles can hear me. I think Lionel needs to log out as well and log back in or something. All right, while these guys cycle in and cycle out, I'm going to jump to the next article. Actually, let me acknowledge the people in the chat.
Hello, Mike. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Great.
All right, Just Be UTV, how are you doing? Good evening. Complex Design, what's going on? Christopher Clipper, what's going on? Jay Charles, what's going on? Those of you who are watching, please hit the like button. We got 20 people watching and 11 people only like the video. So if you're not going to participate in the chat, at least hit the like button. All right, let me get to this next article. All right, this next one is from Engadget.com. Roku has 29.1 million active users and no profit. It's a big problem. Roku is finding that there are benefits to being the neutral player in the bloodthirsty wars for our hearts, wallets, and streaming service subscriptions. The company's most recent financial figures show that it's possible to get ahead even when you are not backed by a big tech player like Amazon, Apple, or Google. In the most recent quarter, Roku devices were used on an average of 3.5 hours a day, making it one of the most used devices in your home. The company has grown to 29.1 million active users, who in the last 3 months collectively streamed 8.9 billion hours of content. Between device sales and platform fees, Roku has grossed a profit of $100.9 million. Although that wasn't enough to cover its operating expenses. Consequently, the company wound up making a loss of $10.7 million, topping the $6.9 million it lost in the same period in 2018. Roku feels that it's perfectly placed to be the most trusted name in streaming, free from the conflicts that often trouble other platforms. The fact that it doesn't produce content of its own and has no ambitions to do so means that it has earned trust from both the other platforms but consumers as well. And this sort of performative neutrality is likely to continue as more and more TVs switch from broadcast to on demand. The red ink in the ledger isn't bothering Roku's accountants either, who have said that 2019 will be a banner year for sales of its streaming gear and co-branded TVs. Roku claims that 1 in every 3 smart TVs sold in the U.S. is one of theirs, making it the largest smart TV platform in the country. Given the forthcoming streaming services from Disney and Apple, having a box that'll run every service without exception is going to become essential. I like Roku. Always been a big fan of them. I always recommend them to everybody who wants a smart TV. Dr. Yaya, what's going on? I always recommend Roku to people who want to make their dumb TV smart, as well as just the go-to for TV tech. So I see nothing wrong with with the product, but I always find it interesting that they can't turn a profit.
I've never used the product, but I don't it doesn't come to my mind to recommend it. I usually recommend that people go with a Android TV box of some sort and not Roku. I think I can't remember what it was. There were some things that that were difficult to install on it and different things like that. But It may not be the case right now, but I would be surprised if their sales rivaled Firestick, Amazon product, because that's usually people's first foray into that space. They get some Fire Stick or Fire TV, and then
They're
because
outperforming
of
Amazon.
they are,
Yes,
that's amazing. Because I don't know
I just read
anyone
the article.
I don't know anyone that has a Roku. That's amazing.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
never heard anyone say I want to buy one. I've never heard it.
Well, because it's usually second nature. It's usually if you want a smart TV, you just go with a Roku. Um,
No, that's what I'm saying. In my experience,
they
just people usually just go with the Amazon product.
right, but what I'm saying is the way Roku got their branding, their clout in the consumer market is that they are the go-to for smart TVs. If that makes any sense. They're the
Simple.
I believe you may be having a delay on your side, though, Will. So you might want to log out and log back in.
All right. Will you hear an echo?
It's a bit of a delay,
Okay.
and no one can hear Lionel either. I'm not sure what's going on. You might want to log out and log back in as well. So. All right, this next one is from MarketWatch.com. GM plans to sell Ohio plant to electric truck company Workhorse Group. GM says it's investing $700 million and creating 450 new manufacturing jobs in Ohio. An obscure electric truck and aircraft maker in Ohio vaulted to the forefront of U.S. politics on Wednesday after President Donald Trump tweeted the company, Workhorse Group Incorporated, was buying a General Motors company plant in its home state. Shares of Cincinnati, Ohio-based Workhorse rallied as much as 86% at to $1.27 after the presidential tweet, their highest since September. The stock. Can anybody hear me?
Yes,
Did the stream stop
I hear
broadcasting? What
you.
happened? Okay.
I'm looking on the page. Can you hear me, Mike?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at the stream channel now. Um, let's see. Can anybody somebody said Dr. Yaya said you went out for a minute. Okay, I guess we're back. Somebody hit one in the chat if you can hear us right now. If you can hear me talk. Okay. Let's see. Somebody hit one. Nobody. Give me a one. Give me a one. On the one. Nobody's hit one. Let's see. You asked them, Mike. Maybe they can hear you and not me. Mike, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. Talk to the chat because nobody hit one. Mike Busy hit one. Okay. All right. Good. So just only one person can hear it. Come on, y'all. Hit the like. Hit one. If you can hear me. Okay. Rain and woman can hear us both, but they stingy with the ones and the likes.
Yeah, and hit the like button, please, if you're listening and you're not going to participate in the chat. All right, let me finish up where I left off. GM said in GM said in a news release Wednesday that it wasn't in discussion. It was in discussions to sell its Lordstown, Ohio plant to Workhorse, an affiliated, newly formed entity that could bring significant production in electric vehicle assembly jobs to the area. GM shares wavered between gains and losses after the announcement. GM also said it was creating 450 manufacturing jobs in Ohio and investing about $700 million in the state to help expand GM's operations in the cities of Moraine, Palmer, and Toledo, including growing diesel engine production in Moraine for the new GM heavy duty pickup trucks, which will go on sale later this year. The Lordstown plant opened in 1966 and was mothballed recently, rolling out the last of the Ohio-made Chevrolet Cruze in March. Its motto was "Build it like we own it." Workhorse website was down after Trump's tweet, and the company's phone lines were constantly busy. So, I guess good things are happening in Ohio, for the most part, from a industry perspective. So,
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to. So this is and so they're building. This is they're building more trucks, right? Remember, I was out, so I didn't hear all the story. So this is new. This is gas engines for trucks, right?
electric vehicles.
Okay. So they're seeing a rise in the demand for their electric vehicles.
Yeah, that and the plant has been sold. So, it's another new startup has purchased it. So money's moving around in Ohio for the most part. Ohio is has been you know a basking for poverty at least the last 8 or 10 years since the 2008 collapse.
So where is General Motors going to do the production? Uh, oh, so they sold. Is this a gasoline engine plant they sold, or an electric vehicle plant they sold?
It was a gas. It was an internal combustion engine plant for vehicles, right? So they sold it to this new company, and they are going to be building electric vehicles out of it.
Oh, the new company is.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. So General Motors. Why do you think that they did that? You think they're just going to build a new, better facility for electric vehicles? Do you think they probably just chose to um, build a new facility as opposed to remodeling that one?
No, most car companies are getting out of the business anyways. It's just a matter of they don't need it. Really don't need it. If you're not going to
No,
produce
what I'm
electric
saying is,
vehicles,
what I'm saying is the new company, the company that bought the facility, is turning the facility into. They're going to build electric vehicles out of that facility, right? Why couldn't
yes.
General Motors? Why couldn't General Motors just build electric vehicles in that facility?
Well, they wouldn't need it for that. If they have other facilities that they're going to build it, if they're going to build their electric vehicles in China or Mexico, they probably don't need it.
Gotcha. And it also seems like they probably don't expect to have the same capacity.
Mhm.
I mean, General
Well,
Motors. I
electric
wonder what
vehicles,
their outlook is. Mhm.
yeah, electric vehicles always have a low volume anyways for the most part. For the initial startup, it's always low volume because battery capacity is always scarce.
Interesting. So that one we're gonna have to stay tuned to that one, because I mean General Motors, you're talking about large volume um,
Hmm.
production, so that's why it just kind of odd to me that they would sell the facility as opposed to remodeling the facility, unless they don't want that labor force. You know, maybe they want a
Well,
different labor
it's a
force.
possibility. Yeah, it's a possibility of multiple things. It's just I think for the most part that GM is getting out of the business, and this is a better way to get out of the business, and still recoup. All right, this
Yeah,
next one is
still,
from Apple.
yeah,
Yeah, this next one is from Bloomberg.com. How the Apple Store lost its luster. In interviews, current and former employees say brand building became more important than serving shoppers. Sounds very ironic. So we talked about this before. With Smith's recent experience at his local Apple store in the suburbs of Columbus, Ohio, has been an exercise in frustration. There was a time he visited the Eastern Town Center location to buy a laptop for his 11-year-old daughter and spent almost 20 minutes getting an employee to accept his credit card. In January, Smith was buying a monitor and kept asking store workers to check him out, but they couldn't because they were Apple geniuses handling tech support and not sales. It took me forever to get someone to sell me the product, says Smith, who runs 2PM Incorporated, an e-commerce research and consulting firm. It be, it's become harder to buy something even when the place isn't busy. Buying a product there used to be a revered thing. Now you don't want to bother with the inconvenience. Smith's sentiment is shared by legions of Apple customers who went on social media, customer forums, and in conversations with reporters. Only a few years ago, the raves easily outpaced the pans. And in interviews, current and former Apple employees blame a combination of factors. They say the stores have become mostly an exercise in branding and no longer a good job serving mission shoppers like Smith. Meanwhile, they say the quality of the staff has slipped during an 18-year expansion that has seen Apple open more than 500 locations and hire 70,000 people. The Genius Bar, once renowned for its tech support, has been largely replaced with staff who roam the stores and are harder to track down. That's a significant drawback because people are hanging on to their phones longer these days and need them repaired. In January, Apple Incorporated stunned Wall Street, warning that revenue for the holiday quarter would come in well below forecast, mostly owing to slowing sales of iPhone, while weakening demand for Apple's most important product largely reflects a maturing smartphone market. The problems at the stores weren't helping. Weeks later, Chief Executive Officer Tim Cook announced that retail chief Angela Arendts was leaving and would be succeeded by veteran Apple executive DeAndre O'Brien. O'Brien, 52, has plenty to work with, and I'm sorry, her name is actually Deidre, sorry. O'Brien, 52, has plenty to work with, and her division remains an object of envy for the beleaguered retail industry. Last year, Apple stores and their company website were responsible for a significant chunk of the $77 billion that the company got from direct distribution channels. As recently as 2017, the retail arm was generating an estimated $5,500 in sales per square foot, easily outpacing rivals. But that's gaining harder to pull off. When Apple reported earnings on April 30th, executives acknowledged resorting to long-shunned retail tactics, such as discounts, cheap financing, and generous trade-ins to boost demand for the iPhone. That's not a viable long-term strategy. O'Brien's immediate challenges is to make the stores more shopper-friendly, even if that means moving away from the Tony gathering places her predecessor favored in creating more clearly defined spaces for browsing, quick purchases, and services. As human resources chief, and a position she will hold on concurrently, she is well situated to overhaul recruitment and training. That's crucial because store associates will probably be deployed in the coming years to sell the array of services, music subscriptions, extended warranties, and more. Apple is counting on to augment slowing iPhone sales. So this isn't looking good for Apple. What do you think about this, Dolo?
As you was reading that, I was thinking about an experience I had with my father when we went in the store to buy his iPhone, and it was the same thing. This was maybe 2 years ago, and we couldn't get anybody to, to help us. Everybody was like the article said, they were at the Genius Bar, and it just wasn't enough people, because the salesperson also rings you up. So it was like, but it was like part of the culture. So we were mildly annoyed. But now I don't know if Apple can bank on that level of poor customer service. I don't that the luster is gone now. They're going to be rated, I think, a little more stringently on customer service issues. So they're going to have to maybe change that in-store experience. Move them in, move them out.
Yeah, yeah. Plus, people aren't really. Samsung is winning right now. That's just something that they're a consumer reality. Samsung is here. They're winning. Other brands are moving in. It's just one of those things where people have choice now. Before, people didn't have choice. You just had to buy an iPhone, or you just bought nothing, or you took a risk and you bought one of these weird Android phones that was so cumbersome to work that it didn't make any sense to even hold on to it for long because the learning curve was just too high. Now Google makes their own phones, and their phones are just as robust, if not more robust, than that of the iPhone. And there's no real reason to buy an iPhone if you have not upgraded in the last few years. There's really no reason that you would not buy a Google phone. The experience is one and the same. Google offers a uh, a converter that if you plug it into your iPhone, you plug it into your new Google phone, all you have to do is push a button, and it pretty much takes all your iPhone contacts and everything else and structure it right inside the Google phone.
Were you ever an Apple fan?
I was. I've had several Apples, and I had an Apple last 2017 when I was working for a different company. They were all Apple startup, but
They
my
gave it. They
perspective
gave
on
it to you.
Apple, yeah, that you had no choice. You had to accept that. You could bring a different
Yeah.
device, but you're looking like the weirdo with a non-Apple device. But my point here is this: I've always come from the PC era where you custom built your PCs, you tinkered with it, you modified it, and things of that nature. So there was no limitations from my experiences and upbringings in the tech world. When
Well,
when you
that
start
was
talking
why
about
I
Apple,
asked you that question. That's why I asked. That was my reason for asking you that question, and was to get the delineation that you just described. That you came up in the PC world, so you were never really in the Apple cult, because you were, when you say you were in the PC world, that means you were not. So it's a different kind of thing. And I'm saying that my first computer was an Apple, and I've never owned or never purchased anything but an Apple. And I think my first computer purchase was in like '95 or something like that. So it's a lot. There's a cultish kind of thing about Apple lovers who um, that storage, part of the problem is what you said earlier. They don't have anything new. So they don't have anything for the cult members to be excited about. And so going to the store with your getting your older phone repaired and really with no immediate plan to buy anything that they have, there's nothing that Apple has right now that cult members are lusting over. And it's really about the cult members, because the Apple cult members will go buy an Apple product even when they don't need it. So that's the real threat to Apple, is if the cult members aren't excited about it, because it was, having an Apple product historically, it always was an outlier thing to do. We went and paid 2 and 3 times the price for the same thing, or I'm not going to say the same thing, to have this Apple product. And the fact that Apple cultists don't are pointing out customer service issues in the store, that's a shift. That's a shift in the culture. I want to see if they come out with another product. Will we have people camping out overnight? I don't know. I wonder about that right now. Because it's been a long time
Well,
since people have really thirsted for something Apple. I don't know
well,
too
the
many.
generation.
Go ahead.
I think there might be a volume issue on your phone, on your headset. The
What you mean? Too
culture
low,
has
too high?
shifted.
What?
Uh, it's a little bit too high. The culture has shifted in the fact that people have choice. There is no real absolute reason for you to actually buy an iPhone if you just want a smartphone. Before, that would have been considered, par for the course, right? I mean, Google didn't really have a robust platform um, like they do now. Samsung's Galaxy was pretty crappy. The T-Mobile Sidekick was dead for the most part. Now there's so many choices in Android phones. There's so many different variations of form factors and costs as well. It, you know, Google offers so many services now. Even dumb phones now. What was considered to be a dumb phone is actually pretty. People are starting to fall back to those now, and those have very uh, decent features for the most part. I saw that the government is now working on, a very robust, one of those free phones or whatever you want to call them, bomber phone.
Yeah, but you're making a logical, rational argument, and buying an Apple was never a logical, rational thing. It didn't require. It wasn't based on logic or being rational and practical. So it's a cult. It's a cult thing. So
Yeah, what I'm saying
those.
is the culture's starting to die. Is what I'm saying. The culture's starting to, you can no longer hoodwink them into buying a phone from them anymore. People aren't lined up outside the Apple store anymore. When we have a couple of Apple stores around where we are right now, and then those stores are not packed like they used to be. You go to a Microsoft store now, it's definitely getting a lot of traffic in there. Micro Center, always full of traffic. People in and out of those places. So people, it's not just that people are not buying tech goods, but they're especially not willing to spend another $600, $700 on an iPhone with the same features if they can actually get the same thing for half the price from Google's Android platform. So, what's going on right now? Can you hear us?
Hello, hello, hello. Am I coming in?
Yeah, we hear
Yeah,
you.
we
Okay,
can hear
cool.
you.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. What you're saying is practical, and Apple has to feel some pressure to come up with some kind of innovation, to drive, to feed the cult. They have to give people a reason. Um, so it's up to them to, it's a challenge to their creativity.
Hmm. I know. Do you have any takes on this article that we just read?
Well, I agree for the most part with what you all saying. I agree with you, Mike. You have a lot of phones that are coming out that are rivals that that are either close to Apple, rivals to Apple, or surpass Apple in their features. And I know Keep It Techie in a chat say he has a Pixel 2 XL, and the Pixel, I think the Pixel 3X and 3XL, I think those are the names of the flagship phone that first came out. They're 399 and I think it's 499 respectively, and they offer a lot of specs that are comparable to Apple with better, the notoriously better cameras. You have the 7T coming out, 7T Pro, and you have the Samsung, which had a lot of hype come out. So people are looking in other directions other than the de facto Apple phone. And Apple is starting to get this reputation of charging you more for new features that they're rolling out, but these features have been a staple on these other phones for years.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, we'll see. I'm not giving up on my Apple stuff just yet. But I don't have any. But by the same token, I don't have any immediate plan to buy anything that they're offering. I don't even care about the watch.
Well, if we just look at the article and they talk about the store experience, I mean, they were once the benchmark for the store experience. Now, people are dreading going in there because they don't want to deal with the Genius Bar. They don't want to. There's nothing to buy, so what's the point in going in? If I was Apple, I would start closing down some stores as soon as possible. It just doesn't make any sense to keep them open. I mean, people know what the brand is, and uh, for the most part, you're really just wasting a lot of money on advertising.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's probably not a bad idea to shut down some stores, given where we are in the cycle, business cycle. But also, I'm going to connect it to that Roku story. Apple has got to fix that failure known as Apple TV. you know
They they're
that
coming out with
that
a streaming service.
well, a streaming service that what do you is it going to be Apple TV exclusive, or can you go to the iTunes store and get it? I'm talking about something that makes people go to the store and instead of buying a Fire Stick or a Roku or an Android TV box, that they'll get an Apple TV box.
Well, what they're doing is they're not keeping their new Apple streaming service secluded to Apple TV. You're able to access it on other devices also. So they're putting it on other devices, and they're going to be putting shows specific that they're backing to be made, and it's going to be just another streaming service with shows that are native to their streaming.
Yeah, and they have to somehow use that as a way to awaken the Apple TV, because that's going to be a device. That's a device, and if you can tie it in with the watch and the phone, then that will keep people that are in the Apple ecosystem. Throw us a bone, and
Their
then
watch
make
sucks.
make. Well, I don't even know, but maybe a couple people that have it, and like I
I
said,
have
I don't know.
and it
Oh, you have?
sucks. It
Wow.
compared to Android Galaxy watches. You got the Android Galaxy and Android Active watches. This watch sucks. First of all, you can immediately spot it out because it's square compared to the Samsung watches, which are round. You can blend in a little and say, no, okay, that's just a regular watch, and it doesn't offer as much functions as the Samsung Galaxy watch. I know the Samsung previous version of the Samsung Galaxy Watch, you had the bezel where you can turn, and um it turned where you can go through your menu, call people, and so forth. The Apple Watch, it lacks a lot of features and you're paying for it.
Keep it techie. I agree. He says Apple is an ecosystem. I think Apple's business model is to focus on repeat customers by making their product only work properly with other Apple products. Right. That's what I'm saying. That culture is why Apple is why they exist today. The culture wouldn't let it die, and they have to do something to feed that culture. And that Apple TV, that would be something easy that they could do, and not just keep giving ground to Roku and the various Android boxes. The Apple TV is not even in the fight, you know.
because it's expensive. You can buy a Roku TV for the same price as a Apple TV box. You're getting a whole TV out of that.
I'm sorry, you talking about a Roku TV and not a Roku stick or box?
I'm saying the Roku TV, a flat screen TV, you can get a 32-inch TV for the same price as an Apple TV box. If you're if
Wow.
you're if you're on the market for a smart TV, you're not going to buy an Apple TV box over that. It doesn't make any sense. You don't have the same
Right. How much
selection
is that?
or content. I beg your
How
pardon?
much is that Roku TV? How much is the Roku TV?
It's a buck 30.
Whoa, so it's cheaper. It's actually cheaper than I don't think the Apple TV is no buck 30. Might be a little more than that.
I Yeah, it's a little bit more. What I'm saying is that's the cheapest you're going to get it for. But what I'm saying here is that it's the same price
No, I'm making
if
I'm
you
making your
pay that
point that the TV.
right,
Yeah, I'm
right, right,
making
right,
your point that the TV is even cheaper than just the Apple TV box.
right. And what does the
The
Apple
Roku.
TV box really offer? So
Yeah, that too. Yeah, I'm looking at one I hadn't turned on in a year. I have one. you
hmm
know.
hmm hmm and the same thing with Google Chromecast. I mean, you can get a Chromecast for 35 bucks, and you can if you're a YouTube TV consumer and you want to watch the NFL, you want to watch the NBA, NHL, and MLB, all that stuff is available on YouTube TV. You can't beat that for the price that they're charging, 40 bucks a month or whatever it is, 35 bucks a month. You can't beat that. That's better than cable. That's better than direct TV. You're getting, high quality, high definition content, at a very, very small price. I can't see how Apple would ever be able to compete with something like that. Um, Apple's best bet, from my standpoint, is to start opening up theaters inside their stores if you want to offer experience.
And or sell a television.
TV's a little
That
bit
would be a
different
good
though.
one.
TV's a little bit different than smartphones, right? You can go through different smartphones because you can just try them out and take them back when it's convenient. But if you're purchasing a TV, that's a big purchase, right? So people don't change out TVs in the same way they change out smartphones. And if anybody who got a nice deal on Black Friday or on Christmas, they're not gonna be so willing to give up their TV just for an Apple TV.
We're not talking about people. We're talking about Apple cult members. Yes, we will go buy an Apple TV just because it's an Apple TV.
Okay.
Yes, we
Let me
will.
let me get to this next one. Let me get to this next one. This one is from CNN.com. Walmart store managers make 175,000 a year on average. Walmart wants the world to know you can make a really nice living working in its stores. The company has about 4,700 store managers in the United States, and they earn an average of $175,000 a year. Walmart said in a social governance report Wednesday. Walmart, the United States' largest private employer, has been criticized for its $11 an hour minimum wage, including by its rival Amazon. But Walmart said it has raised its starting wages in the United States by more than 50% over the past 3 years, including benefits and bonuses. The average wage for a full-time hourly worker at Walmart is $14.26 an hour. Walmart's department managers can also earn up to $24 an hour, 24 dollars an hour 70 cents. Walmart employers Walmart employs more than 1.5 million workers in the United States. Women make up 55% of its workforce, while people of color make up 44%, the company said. Retail jobs provide a gateway to upward mobility for millions of people, said Walmart. We're investing in our associates through wages along with better educational opportunities, benefits, and training, CEO Doug McMillan said in the report. Walmart has expanded paid time off and parental leave policies in recent years and introduced Walmart Academy to train workers in advanced skills. As a result, Walmart said its workers' turnover is at a 5-year low. Climate change was another area of focus on Walmart's report. We believe climate change is likely to affect national economies and supply chains around the world through potential effects such as lower crop yields, increased health costs, and storm damage, the company said. Walmart said its aim is to reduce carbon emissions by 18% by 2025 from 2015 levels. The company says it's on track to reduce 1 billion metric tons of emission from global supply chains by 2030. So, people at Walmart are balling. Which one of you guys want to jump on this? I'll be interested in what people in the chat think about making 6 figures at Walmart. You know, I remember back in the days, Dollar Will, Biz Markie had a song. I think it was the Vapors, where the famous punchline was, "Nigga, please, you work at UPS." Now you can't laugh at people who work at UPS and Walmart anymore.
Right. She got the Vapors, man. You taking me back. That's way back. I remember the movie, Mel Brooks' movie, History of the World Part 2. It's good to be the king. That's what I was thinking when you were reading about the manager making $175,000. It's good to be the king among the peasants. You know, so yeah. I don't know. What can you say? That's capitalism. They pay that wage because they can. You know, and I don't see the wages going up much beyond here, and we're getting, you know, if this market falls a little more, then people will start to, you know, have an opinion that this could be something more long term and not short term. But we'll soon see. And if these other layoffs start happening, that Walmart job, you know, you really are not going to hear any negative comments about it, because you know, it'll be a good job to have, you know. So I don't think they'll have much pressure to raise those wages. So.
Well, I know. Do you have anything you want to add to this?
Not much more. I'm surprised as you all also that those wages are as high for these upper tier managers at a Walmart. It was a pretty interesting story. Really interesting story.
Well, the wages elsewhere, like let's say Target, and you know, your Kroger Food Line or whatever, they can't be much higher. You know, or else Walmart wouldn't be able to keep workers. As I recall, like those grocery stores, other grocery stores are in that same realm of about $14 an hour for the, you know, regular line worker, not non-management. So Walmart's sitting right at par right now.
But I mean, if you're Walmart, I mean, I guess when I look at this stuff, man, I just find it interesting because you think of Walmart and you're like, oh man, rollback prices, um, blue light special and hour nine or something like that. You really got people at Walmart who are making six figures, who has Bitcoin money. I mean, just think about that. Just a few years ago, you would see these random videos on Walmart. People taking stuff back and getting harassed and whatnot. Who would have thought that the person who's running that store is making six figures and live and eating good and living comfortably? We would shame these people. Not we, but I'm saying as a community, we would have shamed somebody for working at Walmart. Like even now at McDonald's, or back in the day at McDonald's, you would have shamed somebody be like, "Nigga, you smell like French fries. Get out of here!" Like that. That sort of intolerance that you have for people who work those type of jobs. But now, they get the last laugh.
Yeah, I guess I never. I guess I look at it from a different angle. I mean, when you say Walmart to me, I know that
Mhm.
that company is loaded. Okay, I know that the Fortune 500. I think half of the top 10 on that list, more than two or three are Sam Walton's family members. Okay. So,
Right.
Sam's Club, Walmart, same guy. So when you say Walmart to me, I think one of the richest companies in America. I don't think that. Now, but I also been again being a guy with a strong union background, I know I just through the years of the complaints about and the threats to unionize labor at Walmart. And so they those types of threats usually drive wages higher because no companies would rather not have to deal with the union, and the best way to stop one is to buy the workers out, which is give them better wages, increase improved conditions. So what happened at Walmart, that's normally what happens.
Mhm.
you know that's the social justice warrior victory that people don't look at.
All right, this next one is from Engadget.com. Rental company enterprise test subscription service for $14.99 a month. Enterprise Holdings is adding a new way to rent cars by offering a monthly subscription service that allows users to swap vehicles four times per month. Subscribed by Enterprise is priced at $1,499 per month plus fees and taxes. It will be first available in Nevada, Missouri, and Minnesota. Users will have access to subscribe by Enterprises more than 20 different vehicles from its rental fleet, including mid-size and full-size trucks, crossovers, and SUVs, and full-size and compact sedans. This is a plus when compared with OEM subscription services like Volvo, Mercedes, and Porsche that restricts choices to within the brand and sometimes only select models. One caveat to subscribe by Enterprises car selection is that users aren't guaranteed the vehicle they want will be available in their local enterprise rent-a-car locations. Aside from vehicle selections, subscribed by Enterprises includes physical damage and liability insurance, vehicle maintenance, and roadside assistance, all within the monthly fee. Subscribers are responsible for the first $1,000 of any damage by the vehicle sustains. The liability protection includes $100,000 liability coverage per accident for bodily injury or death of one individual, $300,000 liability coverage per accident for bodily injury to death for more than one individual, or $50,000 per accident for injury to destruction of property. If this sounds good to you and you're in one of the test markets of Minnesota, Missouri, or Nevada, the service requires at least 2 months of commitment and charges a $250 enrollment fee, a $14.99 monthly cost plus taxes. This allows up to 3,000 miles per 3,000 miles of driving per month, and only the subscriber is allowed to get behind the wheel. Unused miles expire, and mileage overages charge 40 cents per mile. The driver is also responsible for any tickets, tolls, or fees incurred from driving. We talked about this about a week or so ago, and matter of fact, we've been talking about this for probably about 6 months. Car companies are not moving cars anymore, and they have to find a way to move these vehicles at some way and hook people into some form of services through car sharing. And this is it. This is where we are right now.
Yeah, okay, but that price is ridiculous. That's like 3 car notes for a whole lot of people.
Yeah, that's a high price. The idea is good, is outstanding. Outside of the price, the drawback is you may not get the car you want. And that's a first world problem. But that that's a in a lot of areas, rent, uh, home
Not
mortgage.
to mention they got a surcharge if you go over certain miles. Come on, for $1,500, I should be able to drive to California
So you can drive to California.
without paying extra mileage.
Well, from Boston to California, it's only 2,600 miles. If you're talking about unlimited mileage, and that's a little bit different.
Well, that should be unlimited. I mean, for $1,500 a month, why are they charging extra for extra miles? The price is
Oh,
ridiculous.
well,
You know,
look at it two ways, right? You're not allocated to one vehicle, right? So if you decided you wanted a Mustang on Saturday night, and then by Monday you wanted a Chevy Trailblazer or whatever it is, whatever they call it, Traverse or whatever they call it, those big SUVs with 3 rows, you can have that. You can have it at a whim. But I suspect that the people who are buying into this are probably people who did not have the proper credit to get an actual vehicle at a similar price. I think they looked at the numbers. I think that they looked at the predatory loans that were happening before. I knew some women who were paying uh, you know 7 years on a Infinity um, premium sedan, right? Those comparable to a Mercedes. These cars were so old and out of warranty, and they were still paying massive amounts of monthly payments on these vehicles. And to me, like, you might as well just get yourself a new vehicle. What was the point of that? My coworker went down to Toyota and got a brand new Toyota for $1,000 down with $49 a month. You can't beat those type of deals. I think these car sharing models seem to really cater to that demographic, the ones who couldn't walk into a dealership and actually get a vehicle because their credit score might have been jacked up. This is probably where they're going to land now, instead of going to the hood dealership and getting that old 2001 S-Class Mercedes. That was probably nice when it was new. It's beat up now, but you know how black people roll. Got to have brand name this and brand name that. That they ain't no hole. For twice of what the car is even worth. They're underwater.
yeah, but once you start talking $1,500 a month, you're talking another demographic. So get hood and regular working Joe out of it, because that person who's making $60,000 to $75,000 a year, $50,000 to $75,000, they're buying a car that's $30,000 to $40,000. And that car note is probably $500 or something like that, $500 or $600 over many years. But this is a whole nother thing. You're talking about tripling their car note. So that tells you that we're talking about another demographic. This is the worker who makes maybe $150,000 plus, who's going to sign up for a $1,500 subscription. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I think what's going to happen is a lot of people with the power to do it, they're going to negotiate to make their company pay this for them. So some smart folks that can get an extra benefit out of their employer are going to find a way to have the employer negotiate for their car.
Mhm.
So it'll just be one of those things they claim on their taxes as part of their income, but they're not going to be paying for it.
Mhm. All right, this next one is from CNBC.com. U.S. tariffs
Well,
on
I'm
China
sorry.
jump as
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. One other thing on that. That's going to kill the lines at the airport. When you get off a plane now, the people that subscribe to this, when they go to another city, they're just going to get a card. If they're already in the system, they're already a part of have the relationship with Enterprise or whoever. I'm sorry. I just wanted to throw that part out. That could be, so I can see how corporate accounts can maybe jump on this.
Mhm. All right, next one is from CNBC.com. U.S. tariffs on China jump as deadline passes. China immediately says it will retaliate. President Donald Trump raised the stakes in his trade conflict with China as the U.S. increased tariffs on $200 billion in Chinese goods on Friday. Despite the escalation in the trade war, the Shanghai composite rose 3% and the Shenzhen soared 4%. U.S. stock futures were down only slightly Friday after a volatile week stemming from uncertainty in the negotiations. China's Commerce Ministry said immediately after the midnight uh, deadline for the tariff hike that it would take countermeasures against the American move. It did not announce what its response would entail, but said deeply regrets the turn of events. It had been hoped that resolution could be reached by the two sides prior to the deadline for the tariff hike, but no deal materialized. Trade talks between the world's two largest economies are set to continue on Friday. This evening, United States Trade Representative Robert uh, Lighthizer and U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin met with President Trump to discuss the ongoing trade negotiations with China. The ambassador and secretary then had a working dinner with Vice Premier Liu Ji, and agreed to continue discussions tomorrow morning at USTR. White House Deputy Press Secretary Jude Deere said in a statement Thursday evening. Despite the ongoing talks about trade agreement, the Trump administration is hiking duties on products from 10 to 25%. The move risks widening a trade war that has spooked investors and raised fears about global economic damage. Only a week ago, the White House was boosting hopes that the U.S. and China would resolve their trade disputes this week and potentially have a deal to announce. Beijing promised necessary countermeasures this week if the U.S. raised tariffs but did not specify the actions it would take to retaliate. Trump first announced the tariff increase Sunday as the White House accused China of uh, reneging on key parts of a development agreement. On Wednesday night, he claimed Beijing broke the deal, a remark that Asian and U.S. stocks Asian and U.S. stocks tumbling Thursday. U.S. equity markets recovered later in the day after Trump said a deal was still possible this week. He added that he received a letter from Chinese President Xi Jinping and could speak to his counterpart on the phone. Still, the engagement between Washington and Beijing this week did not prevent Trump from following through on his threat. Ahead of tariff increase, the president called duties an excellent alternative to a trade deal, saying they brought in billions for the U.S. government. U.S. consumers bear the brunt of the tariff costs, not China, as Trump has argued. Industries and businesses affected by the tariffs will hike by the tariff hike will not feel the effect right away. It will apply to goods exported after May 10th, according to the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative. It will not affect products already in transit to the United States. Trump has prepared to put even more pressure on China as he pushes for an agreement. The president has threatened to slap 25% tariff on $325 billion in Chinese goods that remain untaxed. Here's my take on this. You're already seeing TVs being marked up in stores and retail stores. Prior to all of these, to the trade war, you used to be able to get a 55-inch TV for a decent amount of money. Now you're starting to see 55-inch TVs shoot right through the roof, up to $700, $800. It wasn't like that a year or so ago, before this trade war. Same thing with laptops. Laptops have gone up significantly, mostly because I think because of the manufacturing process and as well as the screens and whatnot. You know, the screens have to be produced in China, so there's a whole lot that's electronics that are going to be affected by this. You know, I don't know if China's still if China is still manufacturing iPhones at Foxconn or what other facilities they have, but you'll definitely see the impact of Apple products being produced down there, if they are still produced down there for the most part.
Well, the buck stops with the consumer, you know. So yeah, you're gonna on one hand, if we didn't, okay, you're paying more at the counter because the products have to use American-made parts, right?
American-made parts or Chinese-made parts?
I mean, when you say that, I'm sorry, the Chinese-made part, because of the tariffs, it's a surcharge. It gets passed on to you by the store
Right, right.
acquiring the parts.
Hmm.
So the the function of the tariffs is it's an anti-trade tactic. It's designed to discourage the importation, correct?
Hmm.
I mean, I'm just trying to. So, and my position is there are some. I can't believe I'm gonna say this word, fundamental. There's some fundamental reasons to be concerned about the trade imbalance and what it means for our domestically produced items. And again, I'm of the opinion that we're at the end of this growth cycle, and the tariffs encourage the use of domestic supplies, materials. The long end, the payoff is we have a glut of a lot of things. This is what's not really coming out in a lot of the media. We have a glut. Not you. Everybody knows we have a glut of steel. We have a glut of energy. We have a glut of a lot of things. So when you end up at the top of a cycle, you're really trying to manage the inventory. Really trying to burn off what you have. And so as I see it, the purpose of the tariffs is to discourage importation so that we could burn off our inventory. So that's where you get these stories of China dumping. I don't think that's a good term to use, but dumping on us. That's just what you do. You're trying to manage your inventory. So it's like if Trump and God, I cannot believe I'm defending this. um, Remember, I'm the liberal guy here. I'm the Democrat. But if we didn't have these tariffs, then our inventory of materials will continue to build, and we would pay for it on the back end years later, because we will be paying storage for materials that are declining in value in the marketplace. So you end up selling stuff at a price lower than it costs you to produce it. So the way around that is you really get, like you just said, you get shafted right now when you go to buy the stuff. Either the public gets shafted right now and at the counter, or these companies that control the raw materials, they get shafted years later. So it's no way around it. Somebody always has to pay for the oversupply. And so I think that when I hear about these tariffs, I just see it as a inventory control issue, you know. So the race is to see who can get rid of their inventory the fastest, because if you're carrying a lot of inventory, you're not, and your sales go down, and you're paying storage fees from it, you can have companies going out of business for that reason. So it's a tough one. That's the other side of greed. As my friend of mine, she says, the needy become the greedy. I'm sorry, the greedy become the needy. So when the economy is booming, every manufacturer acquires as much in the way of raw materials as they can get, because the promise is that I can sell it, I can process it and make more from it later on the back end. But when you get to the end of that cycle, then you start to worry, will I be able to make a profit? Or is this greed, this mountain of inventory that I accumulated, is it going to choke me in the end? So I usually just sit this one out when they talk about when Trump is criticized on the tariffs, because I can kind of see some reason, some logic in it. But the people are
I know
gonna
the
pay.
amazing.
We pay no matter what. We pay.
No, I have no comments.
I mean, what do you think the tariffs? Do you think we're better or worse for having the tariffs, Mike?
It works to slow down China. If that's the whole entire strategy, is to slow China's financial and economic gains down, because the more money they make, the more powerful they become. So that being said, that that strategy is working for the United States as opposed to China. China is really hurting for the most part. They can absorb it for a limited amount of time, but there's going to be a time when they start gasping and they're going to come back to the table. So that's what the Trump administration is hoping for. That being said, the other alternative to not the alternative, but the second point that I want to make is that the United States isn't really winning in that area. In terms of like the money is being reinvested into the economy. It's not actually hurting them. It's not actually benefiting them, I should say. It's not like, they took $200 billion and then they or $325 billion and then they added it back into predominantly black and brown neighborhoods. They didn't, the people at the bottom never received it. So it's not like RCA is going to come out of the woodworks and start making new TVs again, and Americans are going to start buying RCA again. It's not happening. So there's no real powerful end game to this,
Right.
at least
It's
for
not
Americans.
pretty.
For Americans,
Right.
Yeah, for Americans, this is not working out too well. I mentioned computers because the computers have to use these screens. They're all manufactured in China, anyways. So it, if those goods are being taxed at that rate, or being taxed at that rate, you're going to suffer at the end as a consumer because you have to pay. You're paying for a lot of this stuff. Um, Again, TVs that was 55 inches a couple years ago, not a couple years ago, a year or so ago, used to buy it for used to be able to get it for a decent price. Now that stuff is going through the roof, man. That stuff is $7.99, $8.99. It's not even worth it. It's not
Yeah,
worth
so
anything.
you pay at the counter as a consumer on the retail side. You pay before you walk out the door, but then the business has increased revenue, and then the federal government gets to tax that. So you get it back that way.
What they should do is allow. Well, I shouldn't say allow, but they should just force these old auto manufacturing facilities to be converted into actual facilities for producing electronics again. Like why China doesn't have a monopoly on resources other than human resources, but there's enough Americans out of work that they could actually allow them to go work in these factories and go produce these TVs too. Why do we have to buy from them? China isn't doing anything better than what the United States can offer. Uh, I mean, outside of the 24/7 um, labor market that they have, we have a 24/7 labor market too. If
Yeah,
not 24
BK from the
7,
Rockies. Go ahead. I was going to say BK from the Rockies says the Washington dryers are closer to $1,000 than 500. Then he says the only saving grace to this is that trades like appliance repair now have a basis for rebirth. Could be on to something. I think he could, because people are going to be holding on to these products a little longer now.
oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. What's
But
that,
I mean, it's
brother?
not.
I see you. Shout out to what he said. Mike Sneed, save, invest, repair. Yeah, I subscribe to that brother's channel. Yeah, he teaches people how to fix stuff. He has an appliance repair business and talks about iPhone repair and different things like that. How to make money repairing stuff. But because people are definitely going to be holding on to all of these products a little longer.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh yeah, you're definitely gonna see that people holding on to their cars a lot longer. But at some point, they're gonna, the emissions fees are gonna actually go up. They'll figure out a way to get you up out of that car when they tell you that this is an EV only zone. You can't drive your vehicle down that street. You're gonna be SOL.
Yeah, I'm on some kind of list, and so is my father. And maybe you guys are on such a list too, where you're getting a lot of calls, companies trying to sell you auto extended warranties.
Oh
So I
yeah,
think
oh
that
yeah.
relates to this topic too.
Well, where there's a will, there's a way. You wouldn't have this issue if the auto manufacturers did the same thing that Hyundai does in offering a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. All right, this next one is from FastCompany.com. Party City is closing 45 stores amid a helium shortage. Says the two are unconnected. The party is over for Party City as the company has announced it will close 45 stores. The retail chain has been grappling with a global shortage of helium, although it says the shortage is not related to the store closures. It typically closes around 10 to 15 stores a year as part of uh, as part of a network optimization process, but said it would close more than usual this year to help focus on the most profitable locations. While we were focusing on global warming and mass extinction and the possible avocado shortage, a global helium shortage stuck up on you. The lack of helium has negatively impacted two of Party City's main product categories, latex and metallic balloons. The company announced Thursday that it will shutter 45 stores over the course of 2019. There are 870 Party City stores in the U.S. and Canada, and the closure represents about 5% of locations. Local news outlets have so far reported closings in California, Illinois, Connecticut, and Washington. The Party City CEO, James Harrison, said in a statement Thursday that will that while the company typically closes 10 to 15 stores each year, the company decided to close more stores than usual in order to help optimize its market level performance and focus on the most profitable locations. The company says it has found a new source of helium that should get it back to normal level of latex and metallic balloon sales. Well, not everyone would be sad to live in a world without balloons. The helium shortage could actually create far more serious consequences. Everything from space flight to life-saving medical equipment relies on helium to operate. So that's just a list of stores that's going to be closed. Another retailer bites the dust. Dollar Will, what do you say?
I was trying to Google to find out why do they close stores every year. You know, I mean, you
I
would
think they
expect
have these sort of pop-up locations. I think they have these pop-up locations that only happen on a season basis. So from August to let's say November, that's their peak season, and then the rest of the year that's kind of shut down because of Halloween.
So what is it that makes the summer, like August through the end of the year, what makes that the party time of the year?
I guess it'll be what, Labor Day.
Maybe it's winter. Maybe it's that's what it is. Because if you're saying they shut down by these like after December or something.
They're only open for like maybe 3 or 4 months. So I think it's like all summer into like end of October. Once Halloween passes, they're pretty much done.
Oh, okay. So they're not open for New Year's Day or anything. Gotcha. Or Christmas. So right after Thanksgiving, you said Halloween. They're done.
Yeah, after Halloween, they're pretty much done.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. I never noticed that. Um. Yeah. They're in the retail sector, in the retail space. I mean, why if people can buy of all the things people buy online, why couldn't they buy party supplies online?
Because they need it right now. If you have a baby
I
shower
mean,
in the
but
black community you need to get to, you kind of got to do that off the whim because that happens so frequently.
yeah, but parties are planned. So if even if you have a week's notice, that's enough time for you to go online and order something.
In the black community, you only need a day's notice. I've seen people. I've seen people, pop up, cookouts and graduation parties that they weren't going to do before. They're gonna end up doing it on that Saturday. They got to do it, within a few hours. They whip up ideas overnight. They don't plan those things out a week ahead of time. You know, Laquita's 3 months pregnant. They're gonna throw a shower for her.
See how many they can get in. That's the best. That's the first shower.
Hmm. Gonna need a lot more showers after that. All right, this next one is from FinanceYahoo.com. What higher education tech company tells us about a tightening labor market? Amid a tight labor market, universities are getting choosier about who they are admitting to their graduate programs, and the trend sent shares of one education technology provider down over 25% on Wednesday. Lanham, Maryland-based 2U is an education technology provider that partners with schools to offer online graduate degree and short course programs. After the closing bell on Tuesday, the company said it would be lowering its expectations for year-over-year revenue growth from 31% to about 25%. 2U CEO Christopher Posek said on the earnings call May 8th that as schools grow in size, admissions offices are tightening their standards on who gets in. Our oldest programs, while still large, are choosing additional selectivity over incremental scale, and we respect that. Shares of 2U tumbled 25.30% to $44.77 by market close on May 8th as Credit Suisse analyst Brad Zelnick downgraded the company due to the long-term issues of schools balancing their on-campus classes with online offerings through 2U. Credit Suisse lowered its target price on the stock from $85 to $55. With a labor market that is leaving few actively searching workers on the sidelines, universities may not be finding suitable students from the pool of applicants. Consequently, schools are tightening their admissions standards to ensure their admitted students are qualified for the program. Graduate programs are becoming more popular with services like 2U and other tech companies making classes available online. With schools deciding to tighten on admission standards suggests that programs are worried about diluting the value of their advanced degrees, raising larger questions of whether or not higher education is properly serving the needs of the tightening labor market. Only 3.6% of the labor force was unemployed as of April, the lowest level since December 1969. In theory, a tight labor market should favor workers as employers bid up wages and benefits to fill job openings. Depending on the skill sets needed for available jobs, a tight labor market could convince some laborers to forego higher education, learn a trade, and directly join the workforce. The, that trend has already taken form in some corners of the country. The Federal Reserve's March report of economic conditions noted that in Louisville, Kentucky, college enrollment declined as workers actively decided they didn't need higher education. Data shows that fewer Americans are receiving advanced degrees like a master's, professional, or doctoral degree, the demographic that T2U is targeting with its online courses. Data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that between January and October 2017, 442,000 people between the ages of 20 and 29 earned an advanced degree. During the same period in 2018, only 352,000 people in the same age range earned an advanced degree, a 20% decline. Although data is thin on how graduate school applicants were in 2017 and 2018, 2U observed that there's still tremendous amount of activity top funnel, referring to the pipeline of prospective students actually interested in graduate programs. That observation, combined with the aggregate figures showing lower numbers of figures awarded, shows how much schools may be tightening their admission standards. This is really interesting. I never really thought about this.
I gotta point out
that
that is a black area you're talking about. I lived in the next town, Bowie, to Lanham, that Lanham Seabrook area. So that's a black area for sure.
But that must be what is that? Middle income, low income?
No, it's mostly middle. But that town is small, so the people going there would be from the whole larger area, which is middle and upper middle, upper. It can get pretty up there, and you don't have to go far to get to the wealthier, the wealthy Prince George's County. So it's
Mm-hmm.
that's us. I just wanted to say that's us that they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That is a overwhelming, predominantly black region. That part. So that's us. So that says that we are, to get those salaries. Our people in that area, they're very competitive about that education thing. Okay, because it's getting expensive, getting to be difficult to stay in the whole DMV with gentrification. So there's a class component to it. If you're black and you're gonna be in the DC area, you're gonna have to have some money. And so the issue is really as well as race. It's an economic issue. I don't care what race you are, if you don't have any money, you're not going to be in the DMV. The DMV is like Manhattan. That's going to be the new Manhattan South. You better have some money, or San Francisco East. You better have some money if you're going to be in the DMV. So yeah, they are serious about that degrees.
All right. This next one is from FastCompany.com. We make $325,000 a year and feel like we live paycheck to paycheck. 3 couples tell us how much they earn, spend, and save. What does it mean to be middle class? Depends on who you ask. As I wrote recently, Americans of all stripes think of themselves as middle class, though being middle class has been defined as a household gross income anywhere from $37,000 to $147,000. It may be more accurately described as a state of mind, a feeling of financial insecurity. Even families whose salaries put them in the upper middle class feel like they simply don't have enough to live comfortably without worrying about money. After all, as salaries expand, so too do mortgage payments, childcare costs, and travel expenses. A family of 4 with a household income well into the 6 figures may not save much more than a young couple that earns half as much has fewer expenses. We asked 3 couples from different income levels that put them squarely in the middle or upper middle class range to share a snapshot of their yearly earnings and expenses, as well as how much they save and invest toward the future. Couple in their 20s without children renting in Toronto and earning less than $100,000 a year, gross income of $96,700, tax and other payroll deductions $43,000 and $43,100, net income of $53,600. Annual expenses: rent $14,882, utilities are not $893, phone that should be included under utilities $1,340, groceries is $4,280, eating out, that can mean a lot of things on this channel. $1,786. Entertainment $744. Fitness is $2,232. Healthcare $1,786. Transit's $893. Vacation $3,720 to $4,460. Student loan debt repayment $4,464. Charity $744. Savings and investing $11,161 to $14,882. Leftovers between 210 to 4,400 $4,675. I think we opt to live more frugally than we have in order to save more. So in that sense, it's empowered. It's an empowered choice, not something forced on us. Says Stephen, an entrepreneur who lives. I'm not going to go into that. A nurse. The couple saves anywhere between $11,000 and $15,000 a year, and invest about 70% of that, and the remaining 30% makes up their emergency fund. Their apartment is especially modest and relatively small, according to Stephen, because housing in Toronto is no small expense. We could afford more, but that would make rent another $1,000 a month. He adds. Though the couple prioritizes saving and investing, Stephen says they still manage to do things like travel by finding ways to trim costs. We try to get we try to get the same outcome for less money, he says. That may mean vacation in a city where they can stay with a friend rather than spending on a hotel or avoiding travel at peak times to snag cheaper flights. As with anyone, I imagine we love to save more, Stephen says, but we also want to balance that with the things that bring us joy in life. Stephen is more of a saver than in the relationship, while Martin likes to enjoy his money a bit more. I push Martin to invest a little bit more. Stephen says he's pushing me to enjoy life a little more. It's a good balance once we had an honest conversation about it. This is actually a very interesting article because I'd love to see them interview black couples and see how they live. Dollar Will, $325,000 a month. I mean a year, and feel like we live paycheck to paycheck. What do you think about this?
I know people like that. I know people like that. If they bought their house recently, or last recently could be as recent as 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Um, I know couples like that. They don't have a Mercedes outside in their driveway. They got a kid in private school or two, and those private schools are like college tuitions. It's incredibly expensive. So that's why I think that people need to learn how to read stock charts, learn about the business cycle, and be flexible before downturns come, because they do come. They always do. That's a part of it. You have ups and downs in the business cycle, and in the stock market. We have people already living right on the edge, and they can't afford a slowdown in the economy, a layoff, a hit to their retirement account. But when I talk to friends of mine, I say to them, are you ready to leave DC? Have you thought about it? Have you considered being proactive in selling your house? They say, where am I going to go? I said, somewhere else. Leave the city, someplace cheaper. It's like it's better to choose to go than to be forced to go.
Hmm.
But these are the kinds of tough conversations we need to be having. But we fight to try to hold on to what we have, when the world around you is changing. You can't, change is constant. You know, and yeah, we're not having those conversations right now, but we will. They kind of come up whenever I'm around settings, and the gentrification issue come up, and I kind of, people get upset when I'm not. I'm partially sympathetic. I'm sympathetic to one in one sense where When you talk about the poor and they, and underhanded tactics that happen to push poor people out. Now that I'm angry about. But when I'm not sympathetic, went to people who have a lot of equity in their home and they're just complaining because they don't like the changes in their neighborhood. Well, that's capitalism. You won. The best possible thing happened. You bought some property, and it became incredibly valuable, and people from all over wanted to live in your neighborhood. That's what you hope would happen, you know. But the price of that is you get new neighbors, and you're tempted to sell. Well, sell,
Mhm.
sell.
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna be
Come back
cheeky and
later.
basically
Go
say,
away go away for a couple of years, go south or someplace cheaper, keep your money safe. Most of these downturns last maybe 2 or 3, maybe about 3 years, 2.5, 3 years. If you want to come back, everything will be cheaper and you'll have a mountain of money. For the people that everybody can't leave, but for the ones that can, they should be thinking about it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna be cheeky at first and say that if 325 isn't enough, maybe they should get a job at Walmart.
Yeah.
No, but
Yeah,
this
everybody's
is a
trying to get
serious.
that manager job.
Yeah, but this is a serious issue, man. It's gonna get worse as time goes on, especially if we're looking at the technicals. Um, you may have to tighten up the belt a little bit tighter. Um, it's one of those things. I don't think that most of these people take the market seriously for what it is. Like you said, they should have got out of the house when there was equity in it, and now there's no equity in it, and now you're SOL. Um, this is
Or
just
like,
poor
or I know
financial
people who
literacy.
just And I know people that are just under this false belief. I have a very good friend of mine. She owns an investment property let's just, I don't even want to say gentrified. It always was a white area. She's owned some property in a white area. For my DMV listeners, it's in the area where UDC and American University, that part of town, okay? And her mother left it to her, and I'm like, sell. And she owns her own private residence. So I mean, between those two properties, she's over $1 million, two pieces of property. I'm like, sell. What are you waiting for? You won. You won the game. Cash in. But we're under the impression that real estate's safe and it always goes up. You're at the top. You won. You bought the thing for $100,000. It's 600, 700. What you waiting on? Nobody tells us sell. So there's the upside of the gentrification story we don't talk about. We have a lot of black folks are winning because they're walking away with over $500,000 at settlement. That's a victory, but we don't celebrate that. You know.
Hmm. You have any technicals you want to bring up tonight?
Sure. I'm gonna not many, but let me get to everybody's favorite. I gotta I gotta go with the first one I'm gonna talk about is Bitcoin. This thing, good Lord,
Let me
this Bitcoin
yeah,
move.
let me read this
Now I'm
article.
getting concerned. What were you saying,
Let
Mike?
me read this article so I can, let me read this
Oh,
article so I can put this
okay, go
last one
for
on
it.
the docket.
Cause I was ramping up, man.
All right, this next one is from FinanceYahoo.com. Uber's IPO makes history for an unfortunate reason. Uber's highly anticipated ride in the public market didn't get off to a smooth start. As soon as its shares started to trade on the New York Stock Exchange Friday afternoon, it fell below its IPO price of $45, which was already on the lower end of its initial pricing. The ride hailing giant's share dropped as much as 7%, but recovered much of its losses within an hour following the first trade. Uber is the first company with a $4 billion plus offering to them, offering to open below its IPO price, according to Deal Logic data. That said, a company's stock price, a company's stock falling below its IPO price isn't rare in a debut. So far this year, 10 companies have experienced a similar scenario. Newly listed companies fall below their IPO price for multiple reasons. For one thing, current macroeconomic conditions aren't helping Uber. The U.S. increased tariffs on China Friday, as the latest round of talks in Washington made little progress. The Dow has plunged 3% this week, largely because of investors' fear that the U.S.-China trade deal would sink. Tencent-backed Chinese live streaming company Douyu even delayed its U.S. IPO due to its escalating trade tensions, according to Bloomberg. I think a lot of things go into the pricing, pricing an IPO, market conditions, and how two comparable companies perform in the market are two variables that are considered. John Tuttle, New York Stock Exchange COO, told Yahoo Finance. Uber's main ride-hailing competitor, Lyft, which just reported a large loss in its first earnings release, already lost 40% of its valuation after a few weeks as a public company. Ally Financial in 2014 and China's electric car maker NIO in September 2018 also saw their shares tank on the first day of trading. Following the IPO, the underwriters can place a stabilizing bid, meaning they can purchase stock to decrease supply and support the price. First day trading performance may say a little about the future performance. Facebook stock had been struggling for years until it found a way to monetize its business. As for Uber, investors are still wondering if there is a way to be profitable as a company. Warns it may never make money. Uber's multiple business lines, ranging from ride-hailing, food delivery, and freight, also make its valuation hard to calculate in traditional models. What do you think about this, Dollar Will? Since you've been following this in terms of the IPOs.
Yeah, I hate to say it. I have to study this some more because this one's confused. I think that the price, the drop in Uber and Lyft, I think they just got caught up in the general selling in the marketplace. I think the idea to go public was great because companies go public to raise money. And when the market is sitting at the top and you have a lot of people saying that the market's going to go higher, this is the best time for them to raise money by going public. But you can see how spooked everyone is by the amount of selling. So I think they may have gotten caught up in it. And again, I'm not a fundamental style investor, but I think I'm going to make an exception and do some fundamental analysis of Uber and Lyft. Now that they are a public company, we in the public have access to information about their earnings. Whereas if you're a private company, it's really nobody's business but you and the government when you're paying taxes. But other than that, you and I don't have a right to know. But now they're public, we will be able to read through their earnings report. And I think one of them is it Lyft. They report next week. I think they report earnings next week, so we're gonna have a look and see just how bad it is, just how much debt they have. But I'm trying to understand, where would the debt come from? They don't own cars. What is their real overhead? It's not like
Operating
Facebook
expenditures.
got. Well, that's a staff. I mean, answer some phones, sign up
No, that's
people
not.
online.
No, it's not. It's
I
not the
mean, what?
staff. It's the actual. It's the drivers itself. They have to pay those drivers.
Yeah, but the driver's not on a salary. They got a split off of the fare. And the driver's not an hourly worker. So it's not
He's
like
not,
you
but
have to
just
pay the it's not like you have to pay the driver and no work comes in and you're out of the money because you paid the driver. No, if the driver makes money, you split the fare. That's it.
they're not
So
splitting the
that
fare.
sounds like a good business to me.
They're not splitting the fare.
Uber doesn't get a cut out of the fare.
Uber's getting a cut, but they get the driver's getting a larger cut too. You know, the fact that you have to
Yeah,
pay a
yeah, that's
driver
what I
is
mean.
really what's hurting
When
their
I say
business model.
Yeah, when I say split, I don't mean it doesn't mean that it's 50-50. It's split, they're getting a portion of the fare. So what's their real overhead? So that's why we're gonna learn more when we get a chance to peek at their books to see what's really going on. I think this is a wild guess. We'll see when we get to see the report. But I think that they had to have a lot of investors to market this thing. And at some point in time, that debt's going to come off the books. And I think these ride sharing programs are going. I mean, it just sounds like something that's a good thing to invest in, because then they don't own the vehicles and the drivers are not employees. So what's their real overhead? Some administrative people in an office. That's nothing. So I think that they just got caught
You're
up in the
forgetting how
selling.
much
Go ahead.
you're forgetting how much they spent. You're forgetting how much they spend on cloud computing. We covered an article. They spend anywhere between $30 to $50 million, close to that a month on cloud computing.
So you're saying they spend more in cloud computing than they take in revenue from their share from the drivers.
That's one part of their operating expenditures.
So I understand that. So you're saying that the revenue from the fare, from their portion from the fare, is not paying is not making paying the daily nut, as it were.
Their money is going right back into the operating expenditures of cloud computing, technology, innovation. So a lot of the artificial intelligence that has to be developed is actually costing them a lot of money. The autonomous vehicle development is costing them a lot of money. That in itself, it's costing them millions of dollars, and they don't have a functional product as of yet. So a lot of that is just operating expenditures in the back that you may not even be seeing. Drivers are not, the fact that they have to split the money with the driver and they're not getting 100% of the cut is exactly where one of their problems are. I think Lyft had the same problem. I think they spent like a few $1 billion just paying out, the drivers. And now you see the
Yeah, well, like
drivers
I
are on
said,
strike. And now you see the drivers are on strike this week because they don't feel like they're getting their fair cut. So we see a whole lot of hemorrhaging, for some of these companies.
yeah, like I said, we're gonna see better when we get a peek at the earnings report. But I tell you, if when we start to see the impact of this economy slowing down, which is layoffs, we have a lot of people driving Uber as a second job. That is, for a lot of them, it's going to become their only job. Okay, and so there won't be no strikes. Okay, won't be no strikes, you know. So we'll see, because it's a luxury right now, for a lot of people to drive Uber. It may not be later. Let's see. Paul said the operating expenses and the upfront investment costs to get the business started have to be recouped. Correct, Paul. Yeah, they have to be recouped. But at some point, the most upstarts start with a mountain of debt. I mean, that's common. But at some point in the future, that comes off the books. Okay, and then you can move forward from there. So that's why when we see the report, we'll be able to make a projection. But if I can't imagine that Uber is not making enough money to handle the administrative part and the technical requirements and the cloud compute, all that's under administrative in my book. It's like, how could they come this far and not and haven't and didn't anticipate that they would have the revenue to pay for that? So I'm going to assume that they do have enough money to pay for it until otherwise, and that the reason that the stock fell was just general selling, because everything sold earlier this week, So we'll see. That one I'm gonna watch, because that it just seems like they have a product that the market needs. Okay, the marketplace needs. But listen, I gotta mute for a second. I gotta take a call.
All right. Yeah. So to follow what Dollar Wood was saying, or to what I was saying and what Paul Bryan is saying, operating expenditures up front is really hurting both of the ride-hailing platforms. So we covered this probably about a month or so ago, that Lyft was spending something like $300 million on Amazon Web Services. You take into consideration, Uber's probably doing the same thing. They're collecting a whole lot of data, all of those rides, all of those stops, all of those star ratings, all of those user reviews, all of those accounts that have to be created. All of that stuff generates data. All the mapping, the data points for that creates a lot of data that has to be harnessed. It has to be coupled. It has to be linked. It has to be processed. It's not cheap to do something like that. And they looked at AWS and they said that this is the best option for us, and they're spending millions and millions of dollars on this, but they're not seeing a return on their investment immediately up front. And that's because you're not going to see a return on your investment until the vehicles are fully autonomous. That's why they're trying to diversify their portfolio with micro transportation, such as electric scooters and other forms of two-wheel transportation, three-wheel transportation. I'm just reading the chat right now. I see some stuff coming in. Yeah, and they've also had to pay for some of these vehicles as well. I don't know how many vehicles they've paid for, but those are vehicles that is coming out of their pockets. In order to get a industry like this off the ground, you would need massive investment into it. You're not even talking about the infrastructure piece, right? We're just talking about the operation expenditures for Uber itself. They haven't even touched, repaving roads, um, redrawing the traffic lanes, and so on and so forth, bike lanes and all that stuff, so that the autonomous vehicles can work. You're talking about the LiDAR implementations and other forms of radar implementations, just various forms of just the vehicle. Well, I shouldn't say the vehicle, but the infrastructure, civilian infrastructure piece hasn't even been touched on yet.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's when we get the real numbers, then they'll be able to project. The analysts will be able to project out how many years it's going to take for these companies, Uber and Lyft, to come out, dig out from this debt. We're not going to know that till we can see the real numbers. You know, it's like it
Until
was
they,
a shock
in order for,
when people saw the Facebook numbers. It's a shock. It's like, once you see it, you okay, then you can just kind of let it digest, and then it's not so bad the next time because people are expecting to see that. You know. But if that's
did you have anything you want? Did you have anything you want to bring up in terms of the technicals?
Sure, I can just do Bitcoin real quick.
You could also look at a couple more as well beyond cryptos. So
Let's see. Okay. Bitcoin took a dive, of course, way back in what does this say? November of last year. All of it. I'm gonna zoom in. It's recovered all of it. It went past this support here, crashed through it. Now, we are due, as we see on the stochastic, we're overbought, 84. We haven't been this overbought since September of last year. So it is absolutely due to have a pullback. Now, to have a run up this much and crash through this support, is this support that ordinarily would function as resistance. It did not. We see that it just went through it like it didn't even, just went through it like nothing. I mean, it's just little minor pullback and it's just powering through. So this suggests to me that this could be the bottom. This could be the bottom, but we're gonna have a pullback right now, pretty soon, and we'll see how far that goes, how far it pulls back. But this power through this support that didn't really function as resistance is encouraging for the Bitcoin bulls. Okay, so we'll see. So I'm not saying I wouldn't buy it at this level, but I'm telling you my bias, my pessimism is starting to wane a little bit, because this is a pretty convincing move. Let me look at it on a weekly. Yeah, we're overbought on the weekly too. So it's time. It's due. Yeah, it's due. So we'll see. We'll see what it does. So that I just wanted to pass on that bit of good news for the Bitcoin crowd. I want to try something the S&P. No, I want to try the piece of crap VIX. This is a leveraged ETF which makes money when the S&P 500 goes down. And no, interactive. And I just wanted to show you kind of vigorous support. And then we're looking at a weekly chart right now. And we can see right here on the stochastic that it has, you see it peaking up there. It's flipped. So you got positive momentum. You got from, this is Christmas Eve, violated the crash right through the resistance. And in the volume graph, you got huge volume. Now, again, when people buy this symbol, this is real money expressing pessimism against the S&P 500. So it's not just that the price broke the downward trend. So when the S&P 500 goes up, this thing goes down. Hence, the ugly chart where it's just been falling since forever. It's destroyed. But you also see in this big long view that the volume right here this week is the best it's been. And you have to see this volume, this level of pessimism against the S&P 500 is the greatest now that it's been since, all the data we have goes back to 2011 on this view. So, I think it's safe to say since the S&P 500 started its climb in 2009, there's never been any more pessimism than this week. And this is a significant amount of additional pessimism. So I just wanted you to see that. So what happens is the people who have shares in the S&P 500, a large stake, they may not want to sell those shares. And so what they'll do is they'll buy this symbol, TVIX, as a hedge against their S&P 500. So when they lose money in the S&P 500, they make money in this symbol, and theoretically the two should wash each other out. Okay. But as you see, in good times, when times are good, nobody cares about that. They don't buy the insurance. They feel optimistic and they just let this thing fall in the toilet like they did. But this week, something happened. People said, I better buy an insurance policy. And these symbols, these VIX, these volatility ETFs. That's what this is. These volatility ETFs are called insurance. So people, it's shorthand. It's sort of like informally people regard them as insurance. It's like, I better buy some insurance against my S&P 500. And you see this big spike right here representing it. So this takes it out of the realm of opinion. We're looking at exactly what the market, how they think and feel, because emotions is part of it, how they feel about the S&P. They put real money up to buy this insurance because this is the degree of pessimism that exists. So this is real. And so this thing could be going a long way. So, I don't know if it could go flat like this for a long time and the market could still keep rising, or it could go in a trend like this and the market could keep falling. So this is a tough time to be betting on the S&P 500, and the S&P 500 is where your retirement account is. Essentially, in your retirement account on your job, and just like the VIX broke the trend line, the S&P 500 broke it when it fell, and we took out almost a month of gain right here, in this one decline. Now, what else did you want to see, Mike?
I think we could look at Home Depot, Walmart.
HD. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, what do we got here? Oh, this is intraday. Let me look at it first. This is a 4-hour chart. Okay, well, looks like it's oversold and rising here. So that's good. That looks like a nice decline there. Looks like we got a nice bullish. Do we got a bullish candlestick? Yep. That looks pretty bullish right there. It looks like it can run higher. How high? We'll see. So this would be if I had owned Home Depot, again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a dude on YouTube expressing my opinions. Talk to your financial advisor. It's not me. Okay. If I had lost money in Home Depot during this time right here, I wouldn't sell now. I would wait and see how far it came back. And this is an encouraging candlestick here that it's going to come back some. Well, hopefully I'm sure people are hoping that it'll make a new high. We'll see. It might. Let me see. Let me take a look at a daily. Well, that's good too. So even on the daily chart, it's over sold, and it looks like and it's flipped, so that's positive. Now, of course, it could keep going. It could just peter out and go sideways and do nothing. But that I would if I lost all this money to this point, I would hold on a minute, especially since the day was Friday. Today was Friday, and the market did not exactly end with pessimism on a Friday going into the weekend. Today in the market, there was like a 450 point intraday recovery. Okay, so big money stepped in and brought the market back up. Now, when I last looked at this chart, I was concerned with what looks like a head and shoulders pattern. You got your head, your left shoulder, and your right shoulder, and all technical eyes are on this low right here. Okay, so as we move from oversold to overbought, the question will be, will we make a higher high? If we go up and don't make a higher high, and it starts reversing again, then all eyes are going to be on this, because that won't be, okay, you can see this stochastic went from oversold to overbought, and the price made a higher high. Went from oversold to overbought and made a higher high. If we go from oversold to overbought one more time without making a higher high, that's going to spook a lot of folk. It would spook me, and I would be interested in maybe shorting this at that point. Okay, but for now, I wouldn't run from this. I mean, the time to have gotten out for me would have been this imaginary support. When it broke that, these two red candlesticks would have been, made me suspicious. And then when it broke that low, it would have got me suspicious too. But we'll see what happens as we make our way from oversold to overbought. So next week could be a strong week in the S&P. It could, because it's got to recover from the damage, since what is this high? From the 24th, at least for Home Depot. So we'll see. So you said Walmart. Walmart's an interesting story, because Walmart is in the consumer staples space. And first you see this big, huge candlestick. One thing is, these are some huge candlesticks. When it moves, it moves. It's not messing around. Looks like it wants to rise up too. But Walmart is in the consumer staples space. So it's in a place to be too. But what we see here is a diagonal resistance. Looks like a triangle, looks like a wedge pattern, a giant wedge pattern. And I would be, because big money typically rotates in these downturns, or let me just say, when the business cycle reverses, but money leaves things like tech and comes to places like Walmart and grocery stores. Okay, so I would be inclined to be bullish Walmart. I wouldn't necessarily bet against this. This is where I would be looking to go. Leaving those tech stocks alone and coming here, and just like the size of this daggone. This is a daily candlestick, and money jumped in today. This thing is huge. You can see that when price started falling, but whenever money stepped in, they didn't play. Big money coming in, huge, big volume. This green volume, let me just call this optimism. The most pessimistic candlestick is this one, but the optimism is greater. And so, I mean, I just see green, even though it trended down. Big money stepped in powerfully to save this. So, and we're getting ready to flip here. So that says to me that the playbook is still in effect of money rotating. Oh, and we didn't make a lower low. Okay, so we had a high here, and it didn't take out this low. Okay, so that says to me that the playbook of rotating from tech to consumer staples is still in effect, and I'm betting that this wedge or triangle, wedge pattern is going to break out to the upside. So I would be long, definitely quite comfortably long Walmart. And if I was to put a stop loss in, I'd put it in like right below. What's up, brother BK from the Rockies? Thank you for subscribing. And y'all not subscribed to my channel. What you waiting on? I put a stop loss right below here. I would feel safe in Walmart, especially if I can get one of those $175,000 jobs as a manager. What else you got, Mike? Want to take a look at AMD?
Paul Bryant in the chat says Amazon, so AMZN.
Okay, let me peek. I'm not going to say nothing about AMD. I just want to look at it. This is a quarterly chart. I just want to peek at it. We'll see. Yeah, the jury is out. We haven't flipped here yet, really, and we'll see. So I'll be watching Amazon because this could flip right here. Okay, AMZN. Let me see a weekly. What the heck? Okay. This don't look good. Overbought. It's a weekly chart. I don't like messing with the daily chart so much. The reason why I don't like messing with daily chart a whole lot is that a daily chart can go from overbought to oversold. It can do that in about a week. Okay. So, whereas a weekly chart, it takes months to go from one end of the range to another. So, the daily chart can make you do a whole lot of false things. Now, I can have an imaginary support line here, and it looks like we have not broken it. Okay, we have not broken it. So as much, and we have not made a lower low. Really, we're taking out this one candlestick, so we still haven't violated the support. So as pessimistic as I am about this, there's a little slither of hope for people who are long this, but not a good one, because you're already at 95 on the scale. Okay, you're overboard. So already looks like it's flipped negative. I would not put, I wouldn't buy this right here. So again, I'm already biased against retail. Okay, so when I say retail, it doesn't have to be brick and mortar. Okay, Amazon is a retailer. They're not a brick and mortar. They're an online retailer, but they're a retailer nevertheless. And so they're going to feel the pain like all retailers. They're the largest retailer, and money is going to leave this space, this retail space. So Amazon is going to feel it. They'll make money, but their stock price is going to feel it, because everybody's still going to shop at Amazon. It's not like they're going to go out of business, but Amazon is going to be one of those companies that when all is said and done, we'll get a chance. Look at this price, $2,000. Good Lord. We're going to all have a price to buy Amazon at much cheaper price. And it's going to be everybody's number one thing that they're going to want to buy. Who knows? Maybe we'll get it for under 500, hopefully, or about 500. Wouldn't that be the thing? So what do you say? Intel, Microsoft, okay, less than 300. Frank says Amazon was less than 300 in 2014. Yeah, that would be good if we can get it. If we can somehow get Amazon back to there. But that's going to be, Amazon is one of those companies that you write down on your list, so that when if it does take a dive like everything else, you already know what you want to buy. And some of those high quality tech companies, if they start taking a dive, if you hiding out with, like I am, like I'm gonna be hiding out in like the Walmarts and make some cannabis, maybe some utility companies. These are the places I'm gonna hide out. and I'm gonna buy a little TVIX right now. I'm a short and gold. I'm in a company. It's symbol. It's one of those trashy ETFs also that bets against gold. The way the TVIX bets against the S&P. The one I'm in is called DUST, DUST. It's the ugliest chart you ever seen. I think a safe, unless you are a trader, I think that you should be careful. You should probably not mess with TVIX or DUST. Those are very risky, unless you're putting lunch money on it and you can really afford to lose it. But anything serious, you should be a trader, and you should be the type of person that's going to watch it regularly. You're going to watch this thing closely, and at the first little sign of trouble, you're going to get out. You're not going. That's not the kind of thing where you set and forget it. You have to be about that life. Okay. So what do you want, Intel and Microsoft? I think Intel is going to look like AMD. It should. This is a quarterly. So you see that big red candlestick there? But still inside the channel. So that's good news. Every one of those candlesticks represents 3 months. Okay, but when you go down to the weekly chart, now you see hell. Okay, this is like somebody yelled fire. There was no hesitation. They said, let's get the H out of here. They weren't playing around. They got out. Okay, so that's when you see the Dow and S&P falling like that real quickly. It's because of big money leaving big established companies like this. Now that's ugly. So I don't even think we got to debate what the momentum is for this. This is what we call falling like a knife. Now, it's not because these are bad companies. It's back to what I said earlier about the rotation. When the economies, when there's fear about the growth in the economy, people run from this crap. Not crap. This is not crap. This is a great company. They run from these companies, these tech stocks, and they go to places like Walmart. Remember that big green candlesticks I showed you on Walmart? You see the opposite right here, because the money left here and went there. Okay. So, it's not necessarily rational, and nobody wants to stick around. The big money, they don't stick around making fundamental arguments about how great the company is. Okay. They recognize that when the business cycle changes, the place you want to be is those boring companies, like Intel and I'm sorry, just boring companies like Walmart. I was thinking Campbell Soup. I want to look at them because I saw an article about how bad they were. Their stock was taking a beating, and I said to myself, they watch them come up. Watch them come up.
Well, the only reason it's taking a beating is because people are eating top ramen now in 12 packs of honey buns and Drakes and Entenmann's in the manosphere. So those guys stopped eating Campbell Soup a while ago.
Now what you see here, this downturn started in February. I hear you. That is funny, man. Come on, man. I can't laugh about the soup, because soup is going to top ramen, and it's gotten people through some hard times, man. Put an egg in it, call it, that's our like hood. I don't even want to put that on Chinese food, but that's when we wish we could go to the Chinese restaurant. We put an egg and some ramen noodles, boy. That's it. That's how.
Oh yeah, well you're seeing some hard times in the manosphere. You're seeing some hard times in the manosphere.
If that is your diet,
check this out.
I'll share with you after our hangout is over.
If that is your diet, then you have much larger problems and need to worry about much larger concerns. If that is your diet.
But let me just get y'all focused on this. This is from February of 2017, where this peak is. I visited the chart because I read stories about the demise of Campbell Soup, and I'm like, I'm not buying it. I said, because when at some point in time, soup is going to be dinner for a lot of people, because and what do we see? I mean, when you see a trend line violation, this trend line has been going for years and 2 months. So it's from February of 2017 to breaking through. It broke through, came back and kissed the line, and it's going. And we're oversold, got space to go. Yeah, Campbell Soup. I'd be all over this. I would be all over this. But this is one of those consumer staple companies, so you're gonna have people making, double on things like Campbell Soup, so we're going to be talking more about these boring grocery stocks of things you see in the center aisle in the grocery store, because Pepsi Cola and Procter and Gamble and Arm and Hammer. We're gonna deal with that boring stuff because that's where the money is being made in the stock market. So what else you guys got? Anything in the chat? What you got? Oh, Paul says it's a safe. He said Amazon is a safe bet. I would wait until it splits. We'll see. I pause. I it's just easier to come to the consumer staple space because you can find a lot of companies with ugly charts like Campbell Soup that's been declining for 2 years that has been going sideways for a good bit where they've broken their resistance. So the risk is on your side, so this is a low risk investment at this level, and some of these pay dividends too. So anything else, Mike?
Nagone, do you have anything you want for us to look up in terms of your relations to Wall Street?
No, I think you guys are going pretty good. I'm just dropping in for a minute. I'm kind of, doing a few things here. But anyway, no, it's going good so far. Go ahead.
Let me see. What do we got? What is Duke Power? What is that? Duke Energy. I get them. I gotta get like pick a favorite energy company. Good Lord, I see this big gap right here on a quarterly chart. That's ugly. Good Lord. This thing has been through it. So okay, so it back in 2000, it was 143. Came down to $35. Oh, this is 2009. Oh, this is a quarterly. Okay, so although it's been running strong with everything else since 2009, but it hasn't, come back to its peak. So this is one of those. I'm going to pick a favorite energy company. I'm not saying this is it. I just wanted to peek at it because this is one of the first ones that came to mind. But I'm gonna. You see it kind of moving sideways a lot here. So I don't know where. I don't like that it's overbought here. So when you see those big point moves like we saw this week, a lot of times it's not just the tech stuff. It's also some of this stuff like these utilities that maybe need to have a slight pullback. But what you're going to see is that some of these companies in like the utility sector and the consumer staples, they're going to have a slight pullback, but they're not going to keep falling. They're going to stop and turn south, where a lot of the big sexy stuff like your Amazons and a lot of your tech stuff going to keep falling. So but when you have everything falling, like when they put that sector heat map up on television and you see red everywhere, though just know that all of those things are not falling for the same reason. Some of those things are in the middle of a trend and they're just having a correction, whereas some other things like tech or say gold and oil, you're going to see them fall, and that's a reversal. That's a whole nother more extreme level of a decline. So we'll be stay tuned on the Brain Trust, and I'll show you in pictures what's going on and which downturn is going to be short lived and which downturn is the beginning of a trend that's likely to last that could possibly last multiple years if it takes out a key levels. So we'll get into that more, but I just wanted to give you a big picture today. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't, because I'll be doing deeper dives of that stuff now that we're sitting on trend lines and stuff in the S&P, and so it's time for me to kind of straighten this stuff out, because the people on television are just kind of grouping it together. They're not breaking it out, letting you know that money is really still moving from one sector to the other. It can have a tendency to leave people just generally fearful. But just keep in mind that somebody's always making money somewhere, But when you see huge declines, the news story always makes you focus on, like what they say, man, dog bites man isn't a story, but man bites dog is a story. So whatever, like the most extreme aberrant thing is what they talk about, but that's not the whole story.
Now, do you know if Dallas Cowboys trading? What are they trading at? Are they in a bear run?
Oh, to the moon, man! It's like off the charts. Cowboy stock, man, is you can't afford it.
It's trash.
Oh man, man, that's America's team.
Over the counter pink sheet trash.
Look, don't let me start singing about America. I get. That's when. No, you talking about our team, America's team now.
The hell with the Dallas Cowgirls.
All right. I don't have anything else. We covered everything on the docket. So if you guys have any closing thoughts before we close out.
I would say this is the time to really, pay attention to your money and look at these, sign up to my channel. It's time to make a decision. I'll be giving actionable information. Contact your financial advisor. Your plan administrator will, for your retirement plan at work, you can get free information from them. You can go to your bank or credit union. You can generally get free information from them. I believe American Express, if you have certain credit cards, even give you some good information, many times free. So this is not, this is the time when you should be getting as much information. Take the ideas that I suggest and go talk to your financial advisor and say, hey, some guy on YouTube said I should be looking at consumer staples. Is that a good idea or what? And get them to tell you about what they think. And, but be proactive. Don't wait until you lose 50% of your money. Because you do want to retire, right? You don't want to work all your life. So this is how you get to do that. You got to be proactive about this stuff.
If I can add, there was an absolutely great book that people I believe should read. It's called The Millionaire Next Door. All right, because I think that not enough people are financially educated. All right, they do not manage their finances properly. And that's why you see so many people living paycheck to paycheck, and they're absolutely clueless about how to make money in the stock market and how the economy actually works. So The Millionaire Next Door is an absolute great book to read. For anyone who has an even greater interest, by all means, read The Wealth of Nations, learn who Adam Smith was. But again, that's for those who have such interest. I was a classically trained economist. It's what I went to college for. I worked on Wall Street. So, that's my background. But the absolute basics, great book for anyone to read, The Millionaire Next Door. It's not a technical book. When I mean technical, it's not a whole lot of technical jargon. It's a very relatable and understandable book that people can read and learn how to better manage their finances. I think that that would really, really, really go far for a lot of people.
Agreed. Totally agree.
All right. With that being said, thank you all for joining us, and have a good night.